Chapter 1450. Ah goo. Cole suddenly smiled. His mood became extremely good. He closed his eyes, as if he could see Gu Mingming's pained expression. That pair of eyes must be as red and seductive as a blooming red spider lily. That hatred must be the most beautiful expression on her face. Curling his lips, Cole said leisurely, "He will see the reality clearly and submit to me with unwillingness and hatred. He will be tamed by me and become my most perfect trophy. Slaughtering the wolf clan, you still have to ask if I agree to it." The meeting room door was pushed open and Qi Xian swaggered in. He nonchalantly picked up a small stone from the ground and tossed it up before catching it firmly. The smile on his face was 30% provocative and 70% confident. He looked at Cole and said, "I told you long ago that your opponent is me. My mother just left and you can't sit still anymore. TSK, you can't keep your cool. I am starting to wonder if I have overestimated you." Seeing Qi Xian, Cole's expression froze. He narrowed his eyes and did not say a word. Qi Xian leaned against the wall and with the unruly demeanor of a hedonistic youth, he tossed the small stone and said, "I am not a soft-hearted person like my mother. I don't believe that humans are good by nature and people will not offend me. I only believe in striking first and gaining the upper hand. I would rather betray everyone in the world." Cole was not angry. Instead, he had a gratified smile on his face. He nodded and said, "You are indeed a child that I have taught, so, you have already instructed the Wolf clan to kill the entire Fox clan in one night. Kill them all." Qi Xian chuckled and said, "They will be my daddy Li's tribesmen in the future. Why would I kill them?" Cole narrowed his eyes and his anger leaked out. "You also think that Leah can successfully activate the Beast King bloodline, right?" Cole asked coldly. Qi Xian looked as if he had heard a joke and retorted, "Don't tell me you think it is impossible. Don't forget, my mother is the messenger of the beast deity. If she can activate my father's Beast King bloodline, she can naturally activate Daddy Li's." Cole stood up and approached Qi Xian step by step. His rage engulfed him as he said word by word, "Let me tell you, I would rather destroy the entire Fox clan than give it to that bastard Leah." Qi Xian threw the small stone in his hand at the Snow Fox elder who was kneeling on the ground and asked with a smile, "Did you see that? This is the Fox King that you are loyal to. In the future, when my daddy Li's Beast King bloodline is activated, you guys can decide who to acknowledge and who to follow." Cole narrowed his eyes and clenched his fists. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from behind him. The elder who was hit by Qi Xuan's little stone had turned into a pile of meat paste. His bones broke into pieces inch by inch in his body and were wrapped in his skin. Blood slowly flowed out from his body, like a ferocious tentacle looking for the next target to steal his soul. TSK, the wrath of the Beast King. Qi Xian pinched his nose and took a step back. "There's no point in scaring me. You also know that the soul of the forest has already been fully unleashed in your body. Both of us have two lives in the same body and we are mutually restraining each other. In the past, if you died, I would be buried with you. But if I died, you would be fine. But now, if anything happens to me, you will have to accompany me to the river of helplessness." Chapter 1451. Qi Xian shook his head, still smiling. "You really didn't take my words to heart. I said before, I only care about my mother in this world. As long as she is fine, I don't care about anyone else's life or death, including myself." As Qi Xian said that, his sharp claws sliced towards his own neck. He did not hold back or hesitate in his speed and strength. Cole did not doubt that Qi Xian was bluffing. He grabbed Qi Xuan's wrist. "Aren't you afraid that your mother will cry if you die?" Qi Xian laughed. "Haven't you figured out the situation? You can use me to threaten my mother because she is soft-hearted. But you can't use my mother to threaten me because I know, if I die, even if my mother cries, I won't be able to see her. The only ones who will have a headache are my father and Lee's father. Using my little life to drag you, the Fox King, to die with me, no matter how I look at it, it's a good deal. Don't even think about it. Cole said word by word. Qi brushed Cole's hand away. See? This is the difference between you and me. I am not afraid of death, so I am not afraid of you dying. But you seem to have many great ambitions that you have yet to complete. So you are afraid of death, and also afraid that I will die. Not only can you not kill me now, you have to watch over me, protect me, and prevent me from suddenly dying. But unfortunately, I am not an obedient child. In my mother's words, this is called the rebellious phase. The more you don't want me to die, the more I feel that there is no meaning in living. Cole narrowed his eyes and took a step forward. Qi took 2 steps back in alarm. You used the bewitching spell on me once, and my mother also used it on me once. Don't tell me you think that I will fall into the same trap thrice. Qi could clearly see Cole's veins throbbing. This was a sign that he was extremely angry. But Qi remained extremely calm. He maintained an appropriate distance and did not look at Cole's eyes. He just said leisurely, I will be staying in Solder for a while, so I came to greet the Fox King in advance. I am different from my 2 brothers. Not only do I not like to keep things to myself, I also get easily irritable. Perhaps it was because he had been around stray beasts for too long that he had developed a desire to be the most powerful. Unfortunately, as a mere second-grade beast, there are many things that don't go my way. So, if something doesn't go my way, I don't want to live anymore. You threatened me. It was not a question, but a statement. Cole was clearly infuriated by Qi. He had never expected that one day, he would be manipulated by someone else, and by a second-level orc at that. Qi didn't deny it. He just shrugged and said, if that's how you interpret it, I have no objections. But my mom said that one must be polite and know how to be polite before using force. I'm just here to inform you that I'll be staying in Solder until my mom returns. From time to time, I will attack you or do something that will cause trouble for you, but you have to control your subordinates. Don't ever do anything that will make me unhappy. After all, my life is very precious, and I am very irritable. With that, Qi grinned and turned to leave, ignoring Cole's twisted expression behind him. He was here to warn Cole that if he dared to cause any trouble when Gu Mengmeng was not around, he would drag Cole down with him at the cost of his own life. Cole had used him to threaten Gu Mengmeng for so many years. Now, the tables have turned. Chapter 1452. Cole took a deep breath and clenched his fists. Send someone to keep an eye on him. Don't let him make any mistakes. Then, the matter of attacking the Wolf Clan. Eugene probed. Cole gritted his teeth. Let's discuss it in the long run. 2 flowers bloomed, one on each side. There was still 1.5 months before the dry season. With Gu Mengmeng and the rest speed, it was more than enough for them to reach the Moda Mountains before the dry season. So with their usual habits of touring and doing proper business, they did not feel too tired along the way. Although Gregory had flown a few times to Solder from the Moda Mountains, he had always flown in a straight line from the sky. This kind of slow and steady walk was a new experience for him. There was a huge difference between looking at things from this angle and from a bird's-eye view from the sky. With Elvis around, Gu Mengmeng had always been the type to not bring her feet along. After a morning's journey, they had already walked out of Solder's territory. It had to be said that Solder's territory after the 16 tribes submitted to them was ridiculously huge. Oriton automatically took charge of hunting while Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng under the shade of a tree. Ever since Leah had risen to the 5th level, Wabi finally found an opponent who was on par with him. So whenever he was free, he would drag Leah along to spar with him. Leah also wanted to level up quickly and naturally would not shirk his duty. So when Oriton went hunting, Leah and Wabi started sparring on the empty ground. After all, Wabi had been beaten up by Snake for many years and had been at the peak of the 5th level for over 800 years. Leah, a newly advanced 5th level beast, was still slightly weaker than him. But he was already much better than the rest. Gregory was at a loss. He did not know where his position in this family was. When everyone was doing their own things in unison, he felt rather uneasy. Gu Mengmeng felt indebted to Gregory on the matter of mating, so she naturally treated him better in other areas to make it up to him. Seeing his uneasiness, she waved him over to sit beside Elvis. They watched Leah and Wabi fight and chatted at the same time. Actually, Saint Nazir also had a bird called Quinton. It was an eagle beast. When I first arrived, I had some friction with his mate, and I almost died at his hands. Gu Mengmeng said nonchalantly, at that time, I already knew that there were very few birds in the beast world and they were an important fighting force. So when Ian and the rest joined Saint Nazir, we gladly accepted. Quinton. Grace frowned and repeated the name, biting on it. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked at Gregory, asking, it's strange, aren't all your birds tribe members in Moda Mountains? Why is Quinton at the foot of the mountain? Gregory looked at Gu Mengmeng in silence and did not reply. Gu Mengmeng was a little confused. What's wrong? It's a secret. You can't tell me. Gregory shook his head and said, it's not a secret. If you go up to Moda Mountains, you will find out sooner or later. Ha! Gu Mengmeng did not understand. Chapter 1453. Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly and said, so. Gregory said, so he made use of his position to descend the mountain without permission and met a female who had wings but could not fly. For that female, he abandoned the Moda Mountains and joined the Walking Beasts tribe. What the heck? Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and said, which means, if he did not get together with Nina that year, then the one who came to Sauter to look for me is very likely to be him, right? No. Gregory said, as long as there is a male born in the Vulture tribe that can receive the signal, his position as the leader will immediately be taken away. So, the one destined to meet you is still me. This is fate. Gu Mengmeng smiled and thought to herself that it was not a good thing that you were destined to meet me. But Gu Mengmeng did not say this out loud. She just had an idea and suddenly grasped another important point. Gu Mengmeng jumped up from Elvis's arms and looked at Gregory with her eyes wide open. She said, you were not born when Quinton became the leader, so how old are you? 10 years old. Gregory answered calmly, but Gu Mengmeng felt like she was struck by lightning. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng shouted angrily, Father! Must you teach me to be a pervert? Gu Mengmeng's shout frightened not only the beasts, but even Wabi and Leah, who were fighting, stopped and walked to Gu Mengmeng's side. They looked at Gu Mengmeng and then at Gregory and asked, what happened? Elvis chuckled and gave Leah a look. He pointed at Gregory and said, age problem. Leah had a look of understanding. Previously at the Snake King Valley, she knew that Elvis was 3 years younger than her and suffered a huge blow. Now this Gregory, Gu Mengmeng was 18 when she transmigrated and was already 22 this year. Then, at the advanced age of 22, she harmed a 10-year-old male under her father's instigation. Gu Mengmeng grabbed her hair and squatted on the ground, muttering, I don't have the face to see anyone. I really don't have the face to see him this time. I should be arrested and shot for 5 minutes, what the hell is going on? Leah squatted beside Gu Mengmeng, like a child reaching out his hand to poke at a shell washed up by the waves. The method of calculating age in the beast world is different from your world. A normal male would be an adult at the age of 2 or 3. 10 years old isn't that young anymore. Look at Sandy's Jerry, he's only 7 years old this year. Gu Mengmeng buried her head in her knees and twisted her body to face the other side, refusing to lift her head. Leah walked to the other side of Gu Mengmeng and poked her, saying, "It's all my fault. In the future, when we expand our family, I will definitely check their ages clearly. I don't want anyone below 15 years old." "Okay." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, 25, "No, I don't want anyone below 30 years old." Leah narrowed his eyes and said, "Almost no single males can live to 30 years old, then we won't expand the family." Gu Mengmeng said in a low and muffled voice, refusing to lift her head no matter what. Leah sighed and said, "I originally wanted to give Barit a title next year. After all, he had already guarded you for 4 years and helped you to go to the platform of the deity's punishment and entrusted his life to you, to give him something to look forward to so that he won't be too affected by Gregory's addition. But from what you said, it's obvious that Barit has no chance. Sigh, that fellow is really pitiful. I wonder how upset he will be after hearing about Gregory's matter." Digression. Chapter 1454. Ever since she found out about Gregory's age, Gu Mengmeng started to feel awkward and could not look him in the eye. Wabi mocked Gu Mengmeng along the way, not because she was an old cow eating young grass, but because she only realized she was eating young grass after swallowing it. Gregory also expressed his helplessness. Being young was also his fault. In the past, he was the youngest in the whole family and was very worried. Every time Wabi mentioned his age, Gu Mengmeng would fly into a rage. This caused Elvis to feel very inferior and felt that he had embarrassed Gu Mengmeng. But now there was Gregory, who was even younger than him. He suddenly felt very disappointed. How should he put it? Gu Mengmeng's face was only so big. He would rather embarrass himself than let others embarrass him. There seemed to be a position that had been snatched away by Gregory for no reason. The group of people who were originally on a sightseeing tour became even more amusing because of Gu Mengmeng's awkwardness. A month passed by quickly and they arrived at the foot of the Moda Mountains unknowingly. The scenery here was very strange. Gu Mengmeng was standing on black soil and green grass. Less than 20 steps in front of her was a clear stream that seemed to meander down from the sky. She could feel the bone-chilling coldness of the water without even touching it. It was also a stream, but it was completely different from the stream in Saint Nazaire. The stream in Saint Nazaire was slow and soft. It was a little like the flow and curves of the silk in the Dove chocolate advertisements, giving off a slow and romantic feeling. But this stream was different. It was swift and swift. Perhaps it was because of the jagged rocks at the bottom of the stream, causing it to have obvious edges when it flowed. It looked very sharp. It was clearly water, but it shone with the cold light of a sword, making people not dare to approach it. And the stream was a watershed. Because on the other side of the stream, there was a layer of pure white snow. The howling cold wind could be seen with the naked eye, causing the snow to dance in the air. There, that is the main mountain of the Moda Mountains. Gregory raised his hand and pointed at the tallest mountain. With Gu Mengmeng's eyesight, she could barely make out a silhouette in the wind and snow. As for the situation at the bottom of the mountain, she had no idea at all. Because the so-called mountain range was stacked on top of one another, it was impossible to see the whole picture clearly. Gu Mengmeng frowned and poked Wabi with her elbow. "Little shit, look at that tallest mountain, doesn't it look a little familiar?" Wabi's gaze was also very deep as he looked at the mountain. After a long while, he nodded and said, "Gu Tu Meng, I have a very strange feeling. I feel that I should go over, but I also feel a little resistant." Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked at Wabi. "What do you mean? Speak human language." Wabi pursed his lips and shook his head lightly. Wabi was never serious when he was with Gu Mengmeng. His sudden seriousness made Gu Mengmeng very uncomfortable and uneasy. She patted Wabi's shoulder and said, "If you feel uneasy, don't go over. Wait for me here. I will come back to meet you after retrieving the love of the sky." Wabi hesitated for a moment before revealing his trademark unruly smile. "If I admit defeat here and let you face danger alone, how will I face him in the future?" He, of course, was referring to Snake. He had also said the same thing when they were at the bottom of the sea. Even though his body had been corroded by the poison until his bones were exposed, he had still forced himself to protect Gu Mengmeng and bring her in. Chapter 1455. Gregory looked at everyone and said, "It is impossible for a beast to reach the height of the Moda Mountains. Even for me, it is not easy to reach the peak. Bringing her alone is already my limit. I cannot bring all of you along. If you cannot reach the peak, there is no point in you all going in. Why don't you wait here?" Gregory's words were considered polite. After crossing a small stream, they would be entering the Moda Mountains. And the weather in the Moda Mountains was much harsher than the winter in the beast world. Elvis was a beast king and Leah was a 5th-level snow fox. The two of them might be able to hold on for a while, but Wabi was a snake. Once he entered, he would be frozen stiff and enter hibernation. And the Moda Mountains were sealed in ice all year round, which meant Wabi could forget about waking up once he fell asleep. No matter how strong Oriton was, he was just a 3rd-level tiger beast. If he could not withstand the attacks of the Moda Mountains, he would definitely die. No way. Leo waved his tail and chuckled. "I will follow you in and wait for you at the foot of the mountain. We're in the same line." Elvis said simply. They could not fly, so there was really no other way. But for them to throw Gu Mengmeng into danger alone while they waited in a comfortable place, this kind of thing, they could not do. Wabi stared at the tall mountain covered by the snow and was lost in thought. Only when Gu Mengmeng had decided for him and Oriton to wait here did he suddenly snap out of his trance. He pulled Gu Mengmeng's hand and said, "Gu Tu Meng, look at that mountain. Doesn't it look like my original form?" With that, Wabi reverted to his original form and coiled up in circles. He raised his upper body up high and opened his mouth wide, glaring at them as though he was ready to attack. Gu Mengmeng looked at Wabi and then at the mountain. Then, she nodded in agreement. "You don't say, it does look a little like that. But don't all snakes look like this? If Snake was here, he would probably look more like..." Wabi reverted to his human form and shook his head. He frowned. "No, that is me, you." Gu Mengmeng was puzzled but Wabi did not look like he was joking. After a moment of silence, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Little shit, do you have any impression of the Moda Mountains? Have you been here before?" Wabi shook his head and said, "I have no impression at all after I was born. Everything I remember started with Snake. By right, snakes have inherited memories but I have no impression of my father's generation and everything in the past. It's as if my life only started when I left the Mecca Desert with Snake and came to the Snake King Valley. This was very strange indeed." Gu Mengmeng patted Wabi's shoulder. "It's all right. Since you are so curious, let's go in together. If you are frozen, Lil Miss will carry you. Unless Lil Miss dies inside, otherwise, I will bring you out the way I brought you in." Wabi straightened his neck and sneered. "I am a male, do I need you to carry me?" Only true friends would know how much trust there was behind such a provocative and contemptuous smile. He knew that even if he mutated into Godzilla in there, Gu Mengmeng would still knock him unconscious and bring him out. She would not leave him alone. Chapter 1456. In the end, Oriton had to wait here alone. Oratin was not a rash person. He knew his own capabilities and so didn't feel that it was embarrassing for him to be the only one outside after everyone else had gone in. Doing what he could and not causing trouble for others at the crucial moment was a form of maturity. Because Elvis, Leah and Wabi obviously couldn't descend the mountain, they split up. Gregory carried Gu Mengmeng straight to the peak of the Moda Mountains, while Elvis, Leah and Wabi treaded through the snow. As the saying goes, kneel before a dead horse at the sight of a mountain. It was clearly right in front of you, but after running for so long, it felt like you weren't getting any closer. In addition, it was already difficult to advance in the snow, so your speed was naturally limited. Elvis and Leah couldn't bear for Gu Mengmeng to follow them and suffer needlessly, so they naturally agreed with Gregory's suggestion to let him carry Gu Mengmeng up the mountain. It didn't matter if they still hadn't reached the Moda Mountains after Gu Mengmeng retrieved the love of the sky. Anyway, Gregory had good eyesight and would definitely discover them on the way back. Previously, Gu Mengmeng felt a little guilty about riding on Gregory's back. She was afraid that she would affect Gregory's search for a wife in the future. But now, the marriage had already been decided and it was already delayed. Gu Mengmeng didn't argue any further and just laid on Gregory's back. She instructed Elvis and Leah to take good care of Wabi and not let him die in the snowstorm on the Moda Mountains. It was rare that Wabi didn't explode in anger. He just stared fixedly at the mountain. Gregory's original body was huge, so when Gu Mengmeng laid on his back, she would be covered by the feathers on the outside. Her entire body would be wrapped by the fur on the surface of his skin, allowing his body warmth to protect her from the cold wind. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but Gu Mengmeng felt that Gregory's back was wider and warmer than the previous time he brought her to the Moda Mountains. The tension in his muscles became more obvious when he flapped his wings. Gu Mengmeng could feel his movements and her heart couldn't help but jump. With a change in status, his mood would also be different. Even though she knew he was just a 10-year-old child, Gu Mengmeng still blushed in embarrassment. Gu Mengmeng's vision was obstructed and she couldn't see what was happening outside. She only felt that Gregory, who had been flying steadily, suddenly adjusted his angle and flew straight into the sky. Gu Mengmeng instinctively grabbed onto his feathers and screamed in shock. Gregory replied with a chirp. Gu Mengmeng could not understand what he was saying, but she felt strangely at ease. She thought that it was probably comforting words like, "Don't be afraid, even if you fall, I will catch you." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. That's true, the sky was Gregory's territory, there would be no problem no matter how she jumped. Gradually calming down, Gu Mengmeng then realized that she had grabbed him a little too harshly. The roots of Gregory's feathers were bleeding, so she asked softly, "Does it hurt?" I. Gregory didn't reply to her. He probably understood that she wouldn't understand even if he replied, so he might as well save his energy and continue rushing upwards. Chapter 1457. The oxygen was getting thinner and Gu Mengmeng's body could not handle such a speed. She held on tightly to Gregory's feathers, her face turning pale due to the lack of oxygen. Her consciousness slowly drifted away and finally, Gu Mengmeng fainted. His body slid down unconsciously and Gregory felt a strange movement on his back. He instinctively turned around and dove down, catching Gu Mengmeng steadily. So his sharp claws hurt her and he could only use his back to fly horizontally to catch her. Flying straight up was the simplest and fastest way, but she had fainted and could no longer hold on to his feather to stabilize her body. So, Gregory had to fly in a roundabout way. This method of flying was much more difficult than flying straight up, and the increase in the flying distance due to the environment would cause the danger factor and fatigue index to increase exponentially. But Gregory would rather grit his teeth and fly forward in the cold wind than use his claws to grab Gu Mengmeng and fly straight up. Because if he grabbed her and flew, she would be injured if one side of his strength was slightly off. Secondly, without the protection of his feathers, she would be exposed to the cold wind. That knife-like wind cut his body in pain. If it were to cut her body, he did not even dare to think about it. So this was the feeling of not being able to bear to part with her. He would rather be smashed into pieces than let a single strand of her hair be hurt. Even if she, who had already fainted, did not know what kind of pain and suffering he had gone through. Just like what Gregory said himself, birds had their own pride. He would show her his strong self and let her accept him because he was an outstanding male. But he would not show his misery to gain sympathy. He wanted to spread his wings and shield her from all the wind and snow, so that her world only had sunny days. When Gu Meng Meng woke up, it was already evening. They stopped in a spacious cave and Gregory was using an ice cup to feed Gu Meng Meng. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng had opened her eyes, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "How are you? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head. She was actually still very weak. Her forehead and temples were throbbing in pain. She was tired and had difficulty breathing. This was a classic case of altitude sickness. She was not used to this altitude. Most people would recover in 3 to 10 days. She had snake strength supporting her body and would be fine after 1 or 2 days. But Elvis and Leah were not around, so Gu Meng Meng could not be unreasonable towards Gregory. How should she put it? Although Gregory was now a member of her family in name, Gu Meng Meng really could not see him as a partner. Some unreasonable feelings could only be displayed in front of Elvis and Leah. Let's put it this way, when Elvis and Leah were around, Gu Meng Meng was a weak lady who could not even open a bottle of mineral water. But when they were not around, Gu Meng Meng could carry a bucket of water up to 3 floors without panting. Although there were females on the Moda Mountains, as a tribe leader with an engagement, Gregory had almost no experience in interacting with females. He had fallen into Gu Meng Meng's hands the first time he left the mountains, so his love experience was equivalent to 0. He did not have Snake's inherited memories, and did not even have Elvis and Lee's familiarity and influence, so he did not know how to please a female. But he knew one thing. Gu Meng Meng was not willing to rely on him. Digression. Chapter 1458. Just say it if you're uncomfortable, there's no need to force yourself. Gregory frowned. He was just a 3rd-level orc, but his tone was so mature that Gu Meng Meng wanted to shout, "Master is right." "You're right." Gu Meng Meng smiled and said, "I'm just not used to this height, so I don't have much strength. I'm really fine, just bear with it and it will be over." Gregory didn't say anything else and just looked at Gu Meng Meng quietly. He remembered that when she drank a mouthful of water in solder, she would stick out her tongue pitifully and whine to Leah in pain. This made Leah hug her and blow at her to coax and comfort her. He had to comfort her properly. When she was weaving a praying mat with tree vines, she was accidentally pricked by the thorny vines and a drop of blood flowed out. It was no exaggeration, just 1 drop. She even said that she was afraid that the thorns would enter her body through her blood vessels and forcefully squeeze it out. In the end, Elvis frowned and was about to scold her when she preemptively pretended to cry. She shrugged her shoulders and stretched out her fingers to scream in pain even though she did not have a single tear. His heart ached so much that he could only hug her and coax her first. All the words he wanted to scold her were stuck in his throat, and in the end, every tree vine that Gu Meng Meng wanted to use had to be rubbed 8 times with his bare hands to ensure that there were no thorns left before entering Gu Meng Meng's hands. Such a Gu Meng Meng was telling him, "Bear with it and it will be over." Putting Gu Meng Meng down, Gregory spread his wings and flew into the snowstorm. Gu Meng Meng didn't know what was wrong with Gregory. She had already tried her best not to create trouble for him, but why did he still look unhappy? Sighed, the so-called family still needed time to get used to each other. Gu Meng Meng really did not have much energy, and after Gregory left, she did not force herself to stay awake anymore. She just lay by the fire and fell asleep again. Actually, Gregory was still quite meticulous. A fire was lit in the cave and a stone pot was added on top of the fire. Needless to say, this was what Leah had taught him. As Gu Meng Meng had a nosebleed easily, water had to be boiled on top of the fire to use the steam to moisturize the air and maintain the humidity. A thick beast skin was laid beside the fire and the distance was just right so that it would not be dangerous if it was too close and not too far away for Gu Meng Meng to freeze. There were rows of ice cups at the entrance of the cave. Gu Meng Meng just had to pour the hot water from the pot into the ice cups and she would be able to drink the warm water immediately. Moreover, the ice cups were made from the extremely clean ice from the Moda Mountains. It had a sharp sweetness to it and if one was not afraid of the cold, it would taste like rock candy when chewing on it. But Gu Meng Meng did not want to eat cold food now, she just wanted to sleep. Elvis and Leah were not around, but Gregory, who was taking care of Gu Meng Meng personally for the first time, did not let her suffer at all. She was in a daze and did not know how long she had slept. Feeling someone patting her lightly, she opened her eyes in a daze. Gregory scooped a Schwelling fruit from a slightly bigger ice cup and passed it to Gu Meng Meng. The fruits you like to eat can only be found during winter outside, but there are plenty of them on Moda Mountains. And tutu. Chapter 1459. Gu Meng Meng wanted to reject him. She felt that this position was too ambiguous. Other than Leah and Elvis, she could not accept anyone else hugging her like this. Really, it was extremely awkward. Gregory could tell that she wanted to struggle and did not force her. He just said calmly, "The temperature here is much lower than the ground. You will get frostbite if you don't cover yourself with beast skin. Elvis and Leah are not around. Although I am just a guardian beast, I have the responsibility to protect and take care of you. I'm just feeding you a few fruits. You don't have to reject me so much. I can also recognize my own position." Gu Meng Meng actually did not think so much. Everything she did was just out of instinct. She felt a little embarrassed after being reminded by Gregory. She had ruined his reputation and ruined his entire life. She originally wanted to treat him better, but she forgot that in the beast world, not causing trouble for others was not a virtue. Only by continuously acting, being unreasonable, ordering men around like servants and becoming even more unreasonable, would the males feel safe and blissful. He would then say with a smile, "Look, my female is so reliant on me. She gave me so many chances to prove that I love her." Sighing, Gu Meng Meng opened her mouth to take the Schwelling fruit from Gregory's hands. Then, she smiled and said, "Thank you." Gregory smiled faintly and sighed. He asked as if he was talking to himself, "Do you also say thank you to Leah and Elvis?" Gu Meng Meng thought for a while and shook her head. She said, "I did in the past, but I slowly got used to it. Thinking about it, it's really been a long time since I said thank you to them." The answer made Grace feel a little better. She did not say thank you to him because she was estranged. She was just not used to his care. If he had a long time and many chances to take care of her, maybe she would accept it as a matter of course, just like how she treated Leah and Elvis. "Eat another one." With that, Gregory plucked another Schwelling fruit and passed it to Gu Meng Meng. He watched her swallow it. He then asked, "Do you feel better after eating this?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. She leaned against Gregory's chest lazily. She said, "I just don't have any energy. But this Schwelling fruit is really refreshing. I don't feel so disgusted after eating it. It's quite comfortable." Gregory smiled at Gu Meng Meng's words and said, "If you like, I can pick fresh ones for you every day. But you can't eat too much at one time. Otherwise, it will be too cold and your stomach will feel uncomfortable." Gu Meng Meng wanted to tell him not to trouble himself, but after some thought, she decided not to. If braving the wind and snow to pick fruits for her to eat could make him feel happy, then so be it. After all, Gu Mengmeng really could not do the kind of pretentious things she did to Elvis and Leah in front of the 10-year-old Gregory. She avoided Sandy, but she did not avoid Gregory. In the end, she still became a strange auntie. Sigh, what a tragic fate. I just went out to take a look. The wind around Love of the Sky has weakened a lot. It's estimated that the wind will stop and the snow will melt in 7 days. But you only have half a day's time. Leave Moda Mountain Range immediately after taking it, understand? Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Gregory in confusion. Why do we have to leave immediately? Chapter 1460. Gu Mengmeng thought about it. Perhaps it would be like how Sun Wukong obtained the ocean stabilizing needle. After Gu Mengmeng obtained the Love of the Sky, the Moda Mountains would also shake. But luckily, all the birds living here were birds, so they should not be buried alive. Her father also said that after she obtained the Love of the Sky, she would become the owner of the birds and all the birds would follow by her side. With that thought, Gu Mengmeng discussed with Gregory. My father, who is the mighty beast deity, he told me that after I obtain the Love of the Sky, the birds will recognize me as their owner and follow by my side. So I was thinking, how about we bring the birds from the Moda Mountains to settle down in Saint Nazaire? Although Sauter's territory is bigger, but to be honest, there are already the Wolf Clan, the Fox Clan and the 16 tribes there. The situation is extremely chaotic. If you birds, who have been living in seclusion for so many years, join in, you might just become cannon fodder. It's better for you to follow me back to Saint Nazaire. I always feel that the people from Saint Nazaire are the easiest to get along with. This keyword was enough to convince Gregory to do anything. Nodding with a smile, Gregory said, You are the head of the household, I will naturally listen to you. Gu Mengmeng did not say anything that would hurt their relationship. 7 days, 7 days. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Gregory's arms and gradually fell asleep. When she opened her eyes again, it was already the next morning. Gregory was roasting a wild rabbit. He had flown out of the Moda Mountains to look for Oriton last night. At the same time, he had also brought back other prey, but he had thrown them to Elvis and the rest along the way. He only brought back 2 rabbits for Gu Mengmeng to eat. After Gu Mengmeng washed up with water from an ice cup, she hopped over to sit beside Gregory. Resting her chin on her hands, she looked at Gregory who was roasting the rabbit and smiled. You learn really fast. You are as talented as Leah in cooking. But Elvis can't do it, he and Snake are both kitchen killers, any fresh ingredients can be made into dark cuisine. Snake once roasted meat for me and I almost died from it. Hearing Gu Mengmeng's incessant chatter, Gregory suddenly smiled. Gu Mengmeng rarely saw Gregory smile. Most of the time, he had a stern face like a teacher. Even if he smiled, it was just a slight twitch of his lips. Therefore, this smile was rare. What are you laughing at? Gu Mengmeng also laughed, her eyes filled with curiosity. Gregory looked back at Gu Mengmeng. I'm laughing at how noisy you are. Gu Mengmeng wrinkled her nose and said, Are you praising me? Why doesn't it sound like it? If you think I'm too noisy, then I'll speak less. Gregory shook his head and said, No, you quarrel very well. Ha! Gu Mengmeng did not understand what Gregory was thinking. Gregory tore off a leg from the roasted rabbit and handed it to Gu Mengmeng for her to eat first. Then, he placed the water back on the fire and said, In the past, there was only the sound of the wind blowing and snow falling on the Moda Mountains. I'm used to this kind of silence and never felt that it was inappropriate. I even thought that I liked this kind of silence. But... Chapter 1461. You like crowds. Then the next time I bring you back to St. Nazaire, when the 16 valued members gather together, damn, that scene is comparable to a large-scale market. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. Gregory nodded with a smile and said, okay. He did not tell Gu Meng Meng that he was actually used to being quiet, but he felt good when she was noisy. He did not like noises other than hers. After breakfast, Gregory gave Gu Meng Meng 10 Schwelling fruits that he had just plucked today. Eating barbecued meat early in the morning was indeed too oily for Gu Meng Meng, so eating a few fruits was just nice to clear her mouth. The next time you pluck fruits, bring me along. I want to admire the scenery of the Moda Mountains. Gu Meng Meng said as she ate. Gregory thought for a moment, then shook his head in rejection, saying, the wind outside is too strong, you will damage the house. Seeing her frown, his heart ached a little, so he added, 6 days later, won't the Moda Mountains have half a day without wind or snow? You can admire the scenery then. Hearing Gregory's words, Gu Meng Meng became even more excited about what would happen 6 days later. After obtaining the love of the sky, she could go home and give birth to little foxes. Her family would become more and more lively. Hedda and his brothers were growing too fast and could no longer play with her. She had to hurry and give birth to a nest of cute buns. Feeling happy, Gu Meng Meng could not help but start humming. That tuneless song made Gregory mesmerized. When Gu Meng Meng realized that Gregory was staring at her in a daze, half a day had already passed. Hey, come back to your senses. Gu Meng Meng stretched out 5 fingers and waved them in front of Gregory. Only then did Gregory return to his senses. He cleared his throat awkwardly and said, I didn't expect you to know how to sing. Gu Meng Meng's eyes brightened and she looked at Gregory, saying, oh yes, I heard from Leah that the males from your bird tribe can also sing. Gregory nodded and said, it's just not as good as yours. Gu Meng Meng hugged her knees and looked at Gregory. Sing one for me. Gregory did not hesitate and nodded his head. He hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and whispered a tune into her ear. It was a light and deep melody, as if he was playing a famous piece on an ancient European piano. It was not surging and passionate, but every note touched her heart. He did not utter a single word throughout and only hummed softly, but Gu Meng Meng was intoxicated. He embraced her and swayed gently to the rhythm, as if they were dancing together. After humming the song, Gu Meng Meng could not stop herself and looked at Gregory with an intoxicated gaze. Grace was drunk and lost in her eyes. The corners of his lips curled up unconsciously. At that moment, she was the only one in his eyes. You like it? Grace whispered. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head without hesitation. Then, she mimicked Gregory's tone and hummed a few lines, but to no avail. She could not hum out the kind of charm he had. There was not a single word, but it was filled with deep emotions. She could never learn it. Courtesy demands reciprocity. I will sing a song for you too. Gu Meng Meng said with a smile. Chapter 1462. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while and sang, Just Happened to Meet You. The only races in the beast world who could sing were the females of the mermaids and males of the birds, but the songs they could sing had no lyrics. So, although Gu Meng Meng's singing was different from Gregory's, it was rare. Moreover, the cave formed a unique echo chamber, adding to the quality of the singing. Gregory was smiling the entire time, smiling especially blissfully. There was no other reason other than there was only him and Gu Meng Meng here. Every single note that Gu Meng Meng sang was for him. In the bird tribe, singing was a form of courtship. Of course, he knew that Gu Meng Meng was not clear, but it was enough for him to deceive himself into believing that this was Gu Meng Meng's confession to him. Just like that, it was enough. Everything was worth it. On the 5th day, Gu Meng Meng's altitude sickness had completely recovered. Having regained her energy, she was eager to try again. She started drawing on the walls of the cave out of boredom. At the start, she drew some messy, secret martial arts books, which were actually just matchstick men fighting without any style. Then, she suggested drawing a portrait for Gregory, to which Gregory was naturally willing to cooperate. So, Gu Mengmeng tried to find light and made Gregory change his style. Finally, she posed him sitting sideways at the entrance of the cave, gazing into the distance with an unfathomable look. But, Gu Mengmeng was not a child who had learned how to draw. She tried her best and finally drew Gregory into crayon Shinchan. Done. Gregory stood up and walked over when he saw Gu Mengmeng keeping her pen. Don't move. Gu Mengmeng waved her hand and rejected him. Hearing that, Gregory really stopped moving. He smiled and asked, "What's the matter?" Gu Mengmeng used her body to block the drawing tightly and said awkwardly, "That. I didn't finish it. Why don't we not look at it?" Gregory chuckled and said, "It's fine no matter how you draw it." With that, Gregory took another 2 steps forward and was already in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng's back was pressed against the wall, blocking the crayon Shinchan has something on his mind, drawing completely. She raised her head and the tip of her nose was pressed against Gregory's chest muscles. Gregory supported himself against the wall with one hand and placed the other on Gu Mengmeng's shoulder. He looked down from the back of her neck, trying to find out what was going on. He didn't mean to do it. But in modern times, this position was called wall drumming. Gu Mengmeng blushed. She felt that her heart might not be able to take it if this went on, so she admitted defeat and said, "Then, step back, I'll talk to you." Gregory took a step back and smiled at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng swallowed her saliva and said, "Look, you can look. But you have to promise me that you can't get angry when you see it. We're still friends." Gregory sighed helplessly and said, "I'm your guardian beast, not your friend. I just can't get angry." Gu Mengmeng's main point was not her identity, all right. Gregory pondered for a while and said, "What if I get angry? Do you know how to coax me?" "I will. After all, I'm in the wrong." Before she could finish her sentence, Gregory laughed and said, "Then I'll get angry." "Ha! Getting angry before even looking at it." Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory with her eyes wide open. Gregory tapped Gu Mengmeng's wrinkled nose and said, "I want to be coaxed by you once, just once will do. Don't worry, as long as you coax me, I won't be angry anymore and I'll listen to everything you say. How about that?" Aside from the topic, who was so nice? He gave Susu 5 tickets at the beginning of the month. Thank you, big baby. Chapter 1463. Really? Gu Mengmeng was doubtful. Gregory smiled and nodded, promising, "I promise you with the pride of the bird's tribe, if I go back on my words, let me break my wings and be blind, never to fly again." Gu Mengmeng covered Gregory's mouth, laughing awkwardly. "Don't swear so recklessly, it's not worth it. I'll just show you, spit a mouthful of saliva and say that the oath you made just now doesn't count." Gregory didn't know that ever since snakes cut open his chest and take out his gallbladder became a maxim, Gu Mengmeng had been traumatized by oaths. Every time she heard someone say such a vicious oath, she would feel terrible, really terrible. Gregory only knew that Gu Mengmeng's soft and fragrant hand had automatically pressed against his face, covering his mouth, her exquisite little face looking at him anxiously, as if he was an important person. She was worried for him. Afraid that his oath would come true. But, was she a fool? He was not angry at her at all, even if she had drawn him as a green-faced, fanged monster, as long as it was drawn by her, he would find it pleasing to the eye. Actually, he did not even need to coax her, he would not blame her at all. He only wanted to deceive her to coax him once. How could the vow come true? Pulling her little hand away from his mouth, Gregory looked back at her with a gentle gaze, using his mellow voice to whisper, "The vulture tribe has never gone back on their words. But you still said you wouldn't like me back then, and told me to give up early. Isn't it a slap in the face now?" "I don't care, spit a mouthful of saliva and say it again." Other than Elvis and Leah, Gu Mengmeng rarely said such willful words to others, and it was not common for her to be so stubborn for no reason. She did not know why, but she felt that Gregory's oath made her extremely uneasy. Break his wings and be blind, damn, how similar was it to Snake's act of cutting open his chest and taking out his gallbladder. She could no longer bear the burden of a human life on her shoulders, she would rather bear the title of a strange auntie, a big scumbag, and drag Gregory along with her family of 3 to lead a good life. As long as she could live safely, it was fine. Gregory looked at Gu Mengmeng with a gaze full of joy, not the slightest bit angry that she had exposed his shortcomings. On the contrary, he was extremely happy. She was acting shamelessly, wasn't she? That dignified Gu Mengmeng, who always put on the airs of a messenger of the beast deity, always smiled gently to her friends and was cold and contemptuous to her enemies, was acting shamelessly like a child in front of him, right? He had only seen this adorable look of hers when she was in Leah and Elvis's arms. Now, she was willing to throw a tantrum in front of him, right? A smile spread across his lips and eyes. Gregory nodded with an indulgent and doting smile and said, "All right, it's up to you. Then hurry up and spit." Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and demanded, "Bah." Gregory spat to the side and said, "What I said just now doesn't count, please pretend you didn't hear it." Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat, looked up at the sky and said, "Father, watch your television series properly. Just treat that thing just now as a small advertisement, cut it and don't broadcast it. You didn't see anything and you didn't hear anything. Do you understand?" Gregory did not understand what Gu Mengmeng was saying and only felt that she was extremely cute. Chapter 1464. Gu Mengmeng was afraid that if she did not get up, Gregory would say things like broken wings and blind eyes again, so she did not try to hide anymore and slowly moved to the side. That Crayon Shinchan has something on his mind picture appeared in front of Gregory. Gu Mengmeng carefully observed Gregory's expression. Seeing that he was still smiling and did not look unhappy, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. How should she put it? The tolerance of males in the beast world towards females was as wide as the Pacific Ocean. Gregory tilted his head to look at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Can I be angry now?" "Ha!" Gu Mengmeng was at a loss and said, "Is it really ugly?" Gregory shook his head and said, "It's not ugly, it's very cute. But I want you to coax me, so can I be angry now?" Was there a need for approval to be angry? If she said not to be angry, would he not be angry? Gu Mengmeng felt a little helpless. She had almost forgotten how lowly the males in the beast world were. Before she mated with Elvis and Leah, the two of them were also like Gregory. They always acted according to her wishes and were careful in everything. After mating, they were always worried that she would abandon them. Especially Elvis, he was so shocked when she went into the water to touch a lotus root. It was only after experiencing so many things that they believed that she loved them and would not abandon them that they gradually became bolder. While spoiling her, they were also controlling her. She was not afraid of him. Until now, Gu Mengmeng had forgotten that in the beast world, males had to be so careful in front of females they liked, as if they were walking on thin ice. Didn't he just want her to act coquettishly and coax him? What was so difficult about it? Gu Mengmeng took a step forward and wrapped her arms around Gregory's arm, shaking it left and right. She looked up at Gregory with her big watery eyes and said with a trembling voice, Don't be angry." Gregory's iron bones were melted by Gu Mengmeng's "mm." A suspicious pink color crept up the tip of his ears and Gregory coughed guiltily. He looked to the side and did not dare to look at Gu Mengmeng again. He was the one who expected her to act coquettishly, but she really did it and he did not dare to look at her. His heart was beating so hard that it felt like it was going to burst out of his chest. He wanted to withdraw his hand from her arm, but he couldn't bear to part with that gentleness. He could only nod woodenly and said, I'm not angry. After Gu Mengmeng realized that Gregory got shy easily, she liked to tease him more and more. Whenever he blushed and could not do anything to her, she would laugh heartily. There were still 4 days until the wind stopped. The sound of birds chirping came from outside the cave. Gregory frowned and replied, "Got it. You guys go first, I'll be there soon." Gu Mengmeng could not understand the chirping of birds, but seeing that Gregory did not look too good, she asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" For the past 3 days, Gregory had gotten used to fetching prey from Oriton every morning and helping Gu Mengmeng pluck Xueling fruits on the way back. Then, he would roast the fruits to warm himself up and hug her for the entire day, not wanting to let go. At this moment, he was feeding Gu Mengmeng Xueling fruits and was not in a good mood after being interrupted. I don't want to let her go, not even for a second. But he was the tribe leader after all. He had to handle all the matters on Moda Mountains. Frowning, Gregory nodded and said, "Wait for me in the cave, I'll be back soon." Chapter 1465. Gregory really wanted to kiss her before he left like Elvis and Leah, but he knew that as a guardian beast, he did not have the right to do so. Being able to hug her like this was already a benefit that he cheated by using the low temperature as an excuse. Back on land, or rather, if any of her partners were here, it would not be up to him as a guardian beast to hug her. There were only 4 days left of such solitude, but some of it had to be taken away by trivial matters. He was unhappy but helpless. Hugging her tightly, he said in a low voice, "Wait for me to come back." Gu Mengmeng instinctively replied, but after replying, she found it funny. She was not sure how high the altitude was here, but she reckoned that she would not reach the ground even if she jumped today. She did not want to court death, so she had no other choice but to wait for him to come back. Gregory wanted to end this quickly, so he wrapped Gu Mengmeng tightly in the beast's skin, hugged her again, and left decisively. Looking at Gregory's back view, Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue. She had to admit, he was so damn handsome. Grace was gone for most of the day. She did not feel it when he was around, but now that she was alone, Gu Mengmeng was really not used to it. It seemed that ever since she transmigrated to the beast world, she rarely stayed alone like this. Previously in Saint Nazaire, there was a period when Elvis and Leah were very busy, so she was alone at home. But during that period, Leah had also arranged for Mandy to accompany her and chat with her. And that was on land. Even if no one accompanied her, there were still many things she could do. But here, Gu Mengmeng looked around. Although this cave was very spacious and had all the necessities, but when she was alone, it seemed so cold and lonely. When Gregory was with her, she felt that the snowstorm outside was very majestic, but when she looked at it alone, why did it seem so desolate? Gu Mengmeng wrapped herself in the beast's skin and sat at the entrance of the cave. She could not help but think, has Gregory been sitting here alone for the past 10 years, looking at this boundless world covered in pure white snow? Other than this endless white, is there anything else in his world? Suddenly feeling her heart ache, Gu Mengmeng chuckled. It seemed like it was not a bad thing to take Gregory in as a family member. After all, if she did not want him, he could only return to the Moda Mountains and continue to face this empty white for the rest of his life. Chirp! A long cry, accompanied by the howling of the wind and the shrill of cranes, was heard. Gu Mengmeng could recognize that it was Gregory's original form. Before she could even smile and say, "You're back," she was enveloped by a gust of cold air. Her chest was pressed against a scorching heat, and after a round of dizziness, the two of them rolled back into the cave. As he rolled, Gregory transformed back into his human form. He stared at Gu Mengmeng with a pair of sharp eyes, his lips pressed into a straight line. He did not say a single word, but his face was full of accusation. This expression, that sounds familiar. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for 2 seconds and immediately understood that Gregory thought she was going to jump off the cliff by sitting at the cave entrance. Elvis was also like this the last time she went into the water to touch him. I'm sitting there to wait for you to come back, not to jump off the cliff. Gu Mengmeng looked straight into Gregory's eyes and spoke first. Chapter 1466. You walked the entire day. I would have jumped long ago if I wanted to. Gu Mengmeng pushed Gregory and said, Can you sit up first? It's quite heavy. I can't breathe with you pressing down on me like that. Only then did Gregory realize that his position with Gu Mengmeng was not appropriate. Although this position had appeared many times in his dreams, but he did not have the status to press down on her like that. Nodding his head, Gregory still stood up and carried Gu Mengmeng up from the ground into his arms. His back was facing the cave entrance and his face was facing Gu Mengmeng, as if he was guarding against her suddenly rushing out. Gu Mengmeng shook her head helplessly and said, I already said a few times, the last time I jumped off the cliff, I was not really seeking death, I only jumped because I was sure that you would catch me. This time I came on my own accord. We are going to get the love of the sky in 4 days, why would I jump off the cliff for no reason? I don't have a motive, right? Thinking about it, Gregory felt that it made sense. He sighed and said, Sorry, I was too nervous. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, It's normal, I am used to it. Elvis is the same too, he always feels that I am going to abandon him, any dangerous move will successfully make him explode. Patting Gregory's shoulder, Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, But you have to believe me, I don't have any masochistic tendencies, seeking death is really not my hobby. Gregory was unwilling to admit that the scene of her jumping off the cliff with his own eyes had already left a shadow in his heart. The sky was originally where he was most at ease, but once he saw her near the cave entrance, every factor in his body would clamor for unease. He did not like himself who was so paranoid, but he could not help but like her, who made him become like this. Sighing silently, Gregory pulled Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and said, I know. He knew everything, but he could not help but worry. Just like someone once said, we all understand the logic, but we still cannot live this life well. It's very windy at the peak, it's too dangerous for you to sit there. Gregory tried his best to find a lame excuse. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, There is no scale here, but I know I have gained a lot of weight. When I first came to the beast world, I weighed around 120 kilograms. Previously, I took the clothes that Elvis had made for me when I had just transmigrated to this world and measured them. The measurements were about the same, but my muscle ratio was obviously higher than before. Therefore, in the case of the same body shape, the weight must have increased. Back then, a Category 18 typhoon could do nothing to me. Now, it can't do anything to me. Ha 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 ha. Gu Mengmeng smiled like Dongfang Booby, extremely exaggerated. Because of her words, Gregory also laughed. He couldn't explain why, but seeing her laugh made his mood better. Seeing her like this, he finally felt at ease and believed that he had been worrying for nothing. Have you settled the matters in your tribe? Gu Mengmeng directly changed the topic of failed cliff jumping and asked about another matter. Gregory shook his head, his eyebrows unconsciously knitting together. Clearly, the matter seemed to be quite troublesome. Chapter 1467. The birds' tribe was more devoted to the beast deity than the other tribes. So to Gregory, Gu Mengmeng's words sounded a little rebellious and heinous. But, the beast deity was still not as important as his own female, so Gregory did not reprimand Gu Mengmeng. He shook his head and said, I don't have to ask the beast deity about this, but I might have to ask you. Me? Gu Mengmeng pointed at her own nose and asked, "Why? Are the others from the birds' tribe objecting to me taking the love of the sky?" Gregory shook his head and said, "No, it has nothing to do with the love of the sky." "Then what is it?" Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it did not interfere with her taking the love of the sky, everything else was fine. Gregory was a little hesitant and said as if it was not a good time to speak, "Do you still remember the female you sent to the Moda Mountains previously?" Gu Mengmeng thought for a moment and said, "Miranda." Gregory nodded and said, "She is pregnant." Gu Mengmeng blinked and smiled awkwardly, saying, Isn't it a good thing for a female to be pregnant? Why do you look unhappy, as if you have been cuckolded?" Gregory did not know what cuckolded meant and did not mind. He just explained, "She is not pregnant with a bird's child." "Ah." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. It was impossible for land beasts to come up to the Moda Mountains. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, Elvis and Leah would not have allowed Gregory to bring her away without even trying. Land beasts could not come up and Miranda could not get out. Now that he said she was not pregnant with a bird's child, the only explanation was, she was pregnant before winter. Then, that time during the mass estrus. Damn. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and looked at Gregory, saying, "So?" Gregory said, "There have never been land beasts born on the Moda Mountains. Land beasts are unable to adapt to the climate on the Moda Mountains. Moreover, there are not enough resources here to support a young female. But Miranda has already mated with 9 male birds. Sending her back to land now is equivalent to turning these 9 birds into stray beasts. Birds are the most loyal to the beast deity. No matter what, they will never accept becoming stray beasts and delay the pride of the birds. So, if Miranda is sent away, they will definitely crash their heads against the Moda Mountains and die to prove their loyalty, in order to protect the pride of the birds." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. "Why are you so stubborn? Can't you just go down the mountain with Miranda?" Gregory shook his head, his gaze determined. "The birds will not leave the Moda Mountains." "But didn't you leave?" Gu Mengmeng said, "You have been living with us at the foot of the mountain for a while. You know, even if the birds descended the mountain, the sky did not collapse." Gregory sighed, shifted his gaze to the side, and said, "Actually, Gu Mengmeng tilted her head, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. Gregory sighed and said, "I did not want to tell you so early, but I can't hide it from you forever." Raising his head again, Gregory's gaze carried a tinge of pain. He said, "I will not follow you to Saint Nazaire. After you retrieve the love of the sky, I will send you down the mountain and leave the Moda Mountains. And I will return." Chapter 1468. I am also your guardian beast here. As long as you are in danger, I will rush over to protect you immediately. But at the same time, I am also the leader of the birds' tribe. I have responsibilities and obligations that I cannot shirk from. Unless the Moda Mountains disappear, I will have to guard this place forever. Gregory's hand involuntarily caressed Gu Mengmeng's face. "If you are willing, you can take some time out to visit me every year. There is no shortage of water during the dry season. You can come over during the dry season to avoid the summer heat. We can stay in the cave at the border that you stayed in previously. It's much lower than here so you won't have altitude sickness. I can also fly up with Elvis and Leah." Gu Mengmeng fell silent. She did not know why, but she just felt uncomfortable. She looked at Gregory dejectedly and asked, "Gregory, must you turn me into such a scumbag, huh?" Gregory looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion. His heart ached for her frowning sad look. Gu Mengmeng said, "I took your status but refused to mate with you. I am in the wrong and I owe you. But you have to give me a chance to make it up to you, right? I have already thought it through. I will treat you like family. In the future, as long as I, Gu Meng Meng, have a bite to eat, I will not let you starve. But what about you? You actually intend to stay alone on the Moda Mountains? I have only sat here for half a day today and I already feel so lonely. You want me to leave you here for half a year and then come over to accompany you for 2 to 3 months during the dry season? What should I do for the rest of the time? Every day, I will think that Gregory must be sitting alone at the entrance of the cave, gazing into the distance. He must be waiting for me, right? Since I cannot stay on the Moda Mountains to accompany him, why did I agree to let him be my guardian beast in the first place? Gu Meng Meng looked up. Her eyes were misty as she pleaded softly, I cannot stand it. I will be tortured to death by guilt. Gregory, let's leave together after we get the love of the sky. Just like what we have been doing these few days, living together with Elvis and Leah, alright? I will treat you well, really. Gregory gently touched the feather earring on Gu Mingming's right ear. He smiled and said, silly girl. Mm. Gu Mengmeng grabbed onto Gregory's arm and begged, please. Gregory shook his head slightly, but his lips were still curled up. I asked you to come over to Moda Mountains during the dry season to avoid the heat, but I didn't say that I won't look for you when you don't come up. I also regret that I can't be by your side every day, but I have obligations and responsibilities that I must fulfill. Fortunately, I am the clan leader, so I have the privilege to go down the mountain. Therefore, as long as there are no major events in the clan, I will definitely go down the mountain to find you when I have the time. He would not foolishly sit at the entrance of the cave and wait foolishly. Have you forgotten? I've told you before, you don't have to stand there and wait for me. No matter how much distance there is between us, I'll cross it. I'll always be by your side. Really? Gu Mengmeng was skeptical. Gregory smiled and asked, do I have to swear? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, no, I will believe you. Don't swear, I have a phobia about swearing. Gregory nodded with a smile and said, then I won't swear. Chapter 1469. Gregory nodded, his brows still furrowed. This kind of thing has never happened before, I really have no experience. Moreover, you were the one who sent Miranda up the mountain, so I want to hear your opinion. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue. Bring me to see her. Gregory glanced outside and said awkwardly, the wind outside is very strong and it's very cold. Moreover, I'm afraid you'll feel uncomfortable again when you come back up. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. It's alright, I'm already used to this height, it won't be so uncomfortable if I come back up again. Moreover, if Miranda really got pregnant during winter, I really can't sit back and do nothing. Gregory didn't ask any more questions. He just took out another set of beast skin and wrapped it tightly around Gu Mengmeng before placing it on his back. He then tore the beast skin into wide strips, before tying Gu Mengmeng onto his back without affecting her comfort. This was to prevent her from slipping off his back when she fainted again. If it was in the past, he would probably confidently say, I can catch you no matter how many times you fall. But now, he couldn't take the risk. Even if there was a 1 in a billion chance of her getting hurt, he didn't dare to try. To be honest, Gregory's method of tying her up was quite comfortable. Of course, Gu Mengmeng wasn't a masochist. She just felt a sense of security from being tied up, just like wearing a seatbelt when riding on a roller coaster. After everything was settled, Gregory carried Gu Mengmeng to the entrance of the cave. Before flying, he reminded her, if you feel uncomfortable, tell me immediately. Don't force yourself, understand? Yeah. Gu Mengmeng agreed readily. Gregory moved his shoulders before flapping his wings and flying off. Gregory's feathers completely covered Gu Mengmeng, so she couldn't see what was happening outside. She only knew that Gregory was flying extremely steadily. Every time he flapped his wings, she could clearly feel the veins in his muscles expanding and contracting clearly and forcefully. Her body froze. Gu Mengmeng knew that Gregory had landed. The feathers shrunk into Gregory's skin in front of her eyes. She was tied up on his back like a giant baby. How should she put it? The image of the messenger of the beast deity was basically ruined. It was estimated that the birds who saw her today would never see her as a goddess for the rest of their lives. Wang Erhua from the next class might even look better than her now. Gregory untied the beast skin rope and peeled off the beast skin layer by layer like he was peeling an onion. Then, a steaming hot Gu Mengmeng was revealed. Her pale face was flushed red, but it was hard to tell if it was from the heat or embarrassment. Struggling to crawl out of the beast skin, Gu Mengmeng had already given up on herself. Anyway, her image could not be salvaged no matter how many times she pretended to be cold and aloof. Gu Mengmeng had completely given up on trying to regain her dignity. Miranda was obviously shocked when she saw Gu Mengmeng. She stood there in a daze and did not dare to move until she saw Gu Mengmeng turn around to look at her. She then retreated backwards as if she had seen a ghost. She shook her head and said with a trembling voice, I am very obedient. I have always been in Moda Mountains and have never left. Please let me go. I will never dare to pester Aya again. I did not go out. I did not. Chapter 1470. Glancing at the 9 males surrounding Miranda, Gu Mengmeng did not need to guess to know who they were. Even if the Moda Mountains did not exit the beast world, those who could enter a cave with a female so openly must be partners. Didn't they see Gregory automatically retreating to a protruding rock outside the cave after sending Gu Mengmeng off? Gu Mengmeng patted her and said, obedient? Why do I feel that you are not very obedient? Gu Mengmeng did not stand on ceremony and directly sat beside Miranda. She gently touched Miranda's stomach with her little hand, as if she was caressing it. Miranda was so frightened that her entire body was trembling. Her eyes were filled with tears as she looked at her partner pitifully. She seemed to be pleading for help as she shouted, Lucas. Lucas, after all, she was his female and he treated her like a precious treasure. Seeing how scared she was, Lucas' heart ached even more. He took a step forward and said, Great messenger, Miranda is timid and she is pregnant now. You, Gu Mengmeng turned back and smiled at Lucas, asking, What did I do? I just came over to see her after knowing she is pregnant. But Lucas was a bird after all and had an almost blind loyalty to the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng was the messenger of the beast deity, he naturally had to bow down to her. And Gu Mengmeng really did not do anything overboard. She only touched Miranda's stomach. So even though Lucas' heart ached, he could not say anything else and could only look at Gu Mengmeng with a troubled expression. Gu Mengmeng did not care at all. Not only did she not retract her hand, she even crossed her legs and sat on the bed, facing Miranda. She said, You don't have to be afraid, because it is useless to be afraid. If I really want to do something to you, even if all the males in this room join hands, they won't be able to stop me. These words were true enough. After all, unless there was a beast king among the 9 of them, even 9 5th-level beasts would not be Gu Mengmeng's match. Back then, I did not hand you over to Cole and sent you to the Moda Mountains because I wanted to save your life. If I wanted to harm you, I did not have to dirty my own hands. As long as I ignored you, Cole would naturally not let you off. Oh, you still don't know. He is now the beast king of the fox tribe. At the mention of Cole, Miranda trembled even more violently. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and lightly tapped on Miranda's tummy. This child is Cole's. Miranda's eyes were starting to lose focus. It was obvious that she had yet to recover from the previous news and was shocked by the news that Cole had become the Fox King. They were once love rivals and had played tricks in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng knew that she was not a White Lotus bitch, but her pitiful state made it hard for others to harden their hearts and make things difficult for her. Putting aside her pestering Leah, Gu Mengmeng had actually gone overboard with regards to Miranda. That was why Gu Mengmeng had sent Miranda to Moda Mountains. Firstly, it was to prevent her from pestering Leah. Secondly, it was to protect her life. Now that she no longer pestered Leah, the conflict of interest between her and Gu Mengmeng would no longer exist. Gu Mengmeng still had some basic sympathy towards people who were not a threat. After all, even public buses knew to prepare seats for the elderly, the sick, the disabled and pregnant. Gu Mengmeng would never mistreat a pregnant woman. Chapter 1471. Moreover, even if he really came up, he would not be a match for your partners in the sky. Gu Mengmeng spoke slowly, trying her best to calm Miranda's emotions. Moreover, don't you still have me? Since I want to protect you, he will not be able to touch you. Miranda's eyes then slowly focused. She looked at Gu Mengmeng, then at Lucas. She called out in a sobbing tone, "Lucas, yeah, I'm here." Lucas's heart ached terribly. He only dared to go to Miranda's side after getting Gu Mengmeng's permission. He hugged her in his arms. With Lucas hugging her, Miranda's emotions gradually calmed down. It was obvious that Miranda had become very sensitive and uneasy after being imprisoned without seeing the light of day. Lucas and the rest must have treated her extremely well for her to develop such a degree of reliance on them. Seeing that Miranda had gradually calmed down, Gu Mengmeng then continued to ask, "Is the child in your stomach his?" Gu Mengmeng avoided mentioning Cole's name, but she knew that Miranda would definitely understand. Miranda hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "What do you need me to do for you to let me off?" "As long as the child is born, I will kill him. In that case, can you let me stay on Moda Mountains with Lucas and the rest?" Gu Mengmeng frowned. She knew that females in the beast world were used to being selfish. Other than themselves, the lives of others were not worth much. But she thought that as a mother, she should have the most basic maternal love. She knew that in Miranda's eyes, she might be a demon that was scarier than Cole. But she thought that she would at least try to protect her child. She was more or less disappointed with the coldness of the beast world. "He wants this child, do you know that?" Gu Mengmeng's attitude also turned colder. Initially, Gu Mengmeng did not understand why Cole had asked Gregory to send him to Moda Mountains. Now that she thought about it, it was clear. One of the 7 treasures, the key of the Beast King. Cole could not wait for Gu Mengmeng to give birth to a child with the bloodline of the Beast King before snatching it away. So he wanted to give birth to one himself. He probably knew that Gu Mengmeng had sent Miranda to the Moda Mountains, so he couldn't wait to snatch her away. I know, he wants to eat this child." Miranda nodded stiffly and said, Then after I give birth, I'll get Lucas to send the child to him. He won't come looking for me anymore, right?" Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "You don't have to go through so much trouble. After you give birth, give the child to me. I will tell Cole that this child is in my hands. If he has the ability, let him snatch it from me." Miranda looked at Gu Mengmeng blankly. Gu Mengmeng did not want to explain so much and just said, "He snatched my son away, so I snatched him away too. It's very fair." "All right." Miranda did not hesitate to agree to Gu Mengmeng's request. Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Miranda. She just glanced at Lucas and instructed, "Go to the stream at the edge of Moda Mountains to get the food for the delivery from a white tiger. After the child is born, send it to me." Lucas looked at Miranda, and when he saw her nod, he replied, "Okay." Gu Mengmeng did not stay any longer. She got Gregory to bring her back to their original cave. Digression: Today's update has ended. Chapter 1472. You really want to raise Miranda's child? After returning to the cave, Gregory asked hesitantly. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and said, I want to open the doors of time and space and need the key of the Beast King. Using someone else's child is better than using my own. Gu Mengmeng admitted that she was selfish. She wanted to kill Cole at the same time she opened the doors of time and space to completely eliminate the hidden danger that threatened Qixuan's life. Using someone else's child to exchange for her own child was despicable, shameless and inhumane. But, as long as she could protect her child, she would not even bat an eyelid even if she had to wade through a wok of boiling oil, not to mention going to hell after death. The greatness of a mother's love was precisely because it was sufficiently selfish. Gu Mengmeng could have disguised her motives and said in a dignified manner that it was for Miranda's good. Without this child by Miranda's side, Cole would not have any reason to pester her anymore. She could also say in a saintly manner that she could not bear for this child to be abandoned so easily by Miranda, so she placed him by her side to raise him. But she did not. Perhaps this was Gu Mingming's last shred of dignity. I am despicable and I admit it. After doing something that deserved to be spurned, there was no need to put on an aggrieved look. In this world, no one would put themselves in your shoes and think for you. So those sorrows should be left to cry at night when no one else was around. After crying, stand up strong and face all the blame. This was what a mother should do. Regarding the matter between Gu Mengmeng and Cole, as well as the matter regarding the doors of time and space, after confirming Gregory's identity, Leah and Elvis no longer avoided him when talking to Gu Mengmeng. Sometimes, they would even specially explain to him, so Gregory had a rough idea of what was going on. Tightening his embrace around Gu Mengmeng, Gregory said in a low voice, "The weak are prey to the strong, survival of the fittest, this is the principle of the beast world. You did not do anything wrong, don't be sad." "I'm not sad." Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and refused to admit defeat. Gregory placed his hands on Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and looked straight into her eyes. His gaze was not sharp, but as calm as spring water, yet it had the power to see through one's heart. A bird's eyes are the sharpest. Your disguise can't fool me, there's no need to hide yourself in front of me. Although we are not partners, I am still your male. I will always stand on your side and think for you. As long as it's good for you, it's right to me. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and did not say anything. There was an emotion that was hard to describe. Before you do something, you already know that you will be despised by the whole world, and you are prepared to bear the consequences of being despised by others. So when the whole world is throwing rotten leaves at you, you can grit your teeth and tell yourself in your heart, I don't regret it, everything I've endured is worth it. But at this moment, someone suddenly appeared in front of you, hugging you in a warm embrace and telling you in a soft voice, don't be afraid, I'm here and I believe in you. When this person appeared, the high walls in your heart would crumble, then your grievances and frailty would leak out. Gu Mengmeng wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and choked, you might as well despise me, why must you make me so miserable? It's rare for me to make up my mind to be a bad woman. Chapter 1473. There were still 3 days before the wind would stop at Moda Mountains. Gu Mengmeng had been depressed for most of the night because of Miranda and the child in her womb. In the end, Gregory had to hum a song to coax her to sleep. This was the first time Gu Mengmeng had experienced such a way of sleeping. Perhaps, her mother had coaxed her like this when she was young. But ever since her parents divorced at the age of 4, she, an orphan with both parents, had never received such treatment. Elvis and Leah treated her very well, but not being able to sing was not something that could be forced. After all, if the two of them were to howl for the entire night, it would be quite miserable and she would probably not be able to sleep. There was a tint of red in the sky and Gregory's eyes were tinged with warmth. Gu Mengmeng had slept in his arms for 3 consecutive nights. These 3 nights, he could not bear to close his eyes for even a minute, afraid that he would miss every breath she took and every faint smile she had in her dreams. Gu Mengmeng instinctively moved closer to the warmth and snuggled deeper into Gregory's arms. Gregory's large hands hugged Gu Mengmeng's back, hugging her even tighter. He liked her unconsciously moving closer and her defenseless sleeping face in his arms. Although it was a little despicable, Gregory still secretly kissed Gu Mengmeng's cheek. Humans should not do bad things. He kissed her without permission. Although it was just a light peck on her cheek, Gregory felt his heart pounding deafeningly. And the person in his arms seemed to be unhappy that his loud heartbeat was disturbing her sleep, so she frowned slightly and rubbed her little face against his chest. Only then did she continue to sleep at that relatively comfortable place. This small action shocked Gregory so much that he held his breath. It was not an overstatement to say that he was already thinking about what he should do if Gu Mengmeng abandoned him because of his secret kiss. Luckily, Gu Mengmeng's even and light breathing could be heard after a while. Only then did Gregory let out a long sigh of relief. He carried Gu Mengmeng to the entrance of the cave, wrapped her in a beast skin and hugged her tightly in his arms. Patting her little face lightly, he called out gently, "Wake up, I have a present for you." "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng replied in a daze, but her eyes were still closed. "There's really a present, wake up." Gregory whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear. He knew she had a temper when she got up, but he really wanted her to see it once. Groaning, Gu Mengmeng opened her eyes. Just as she was about to complain about Gregory disturbing her sleep, she was stunned by the sight before her. The orange-red morning sun slowly rose and the warm sunlight shone on the Moda Mountains, adding a layer of gentle warmth to the pure white snow. Tiny spots of light shone in the snow, like a vast expanse of fine golden sand. It was extremely beautiful. "The first ray of sunlight in the morning is for you." Gregory's gaze was fixated on Gu Mengmeng's little face. He did not miss her change from feeling wronged for not having enough sleep to astonishment. His smile was gentle and blissful. It was nice of her to like his gift. Her smile at this moment was blossoming because of him. So beautiful. Gu Mengmeng could not help but exclaim. "Not as good as you." Gregory replied instinctively. Gregory spoke too softly and the wind at the entrance of the cave was too strong, so Gu Mengmeng did not hear what Gregory said. But even so, this was the first morning that Gu Mengmeng did not lose her temper after waking up naturally. Strangely, the first ray of sunlight in the morning brightened Gu Mengmeng's heart, as if all the dark clouds had been swept away. Aside from the topic, after hesitating for a long time, she still reminded her babies not to like Gregory too much. Chapter 1474. Are you in a good mood? Gregory asked tentatively. Gu Mengmeng nodded and stood up from Gregory's arms. She stretched lazily and walked into the cave. As she walked, she said, "In the past, when I was working, I often had to wake up very early. That was because I had no other choice. Therefore, at that time, I had a wish. When I had money in the future, I would wake up naturally every day and never wake up early. In the end, I didn't have money, but I had Elvis and Leah. The title of the messenger of the beast deity fulfilled my wish of sleeping as long as I wanted. I would throw a tantrum at whoever dared to wake me up." As Gu Mengmeng spoke, she had already sat by the side of the bonfire. She wrapped herself in a beast skin and sat by the fire to warm herself. Then, she hugged her knees and swayed her body. She smiled sweetly as she recalled the past and continued, "Do you know? Elvis and Leia know I have a bad temper, so they never wake me. And there was one time when a female in the tribe made a ruckus at my door early in the morning, disturbing my sleep. I angrily went out and beat her up. The two of them didn't beat the females, but they beat up all the males in the female's family until they were half dead. From then on, no one dared to disturb my sleep. Gregory had already walked to Gu Mingming's side. He added 4 to 5 ice cups into the pot and boiled it for Gu Mengmeng to wash and drink. Gu Mengmeng said as she watched, "But today is an exception, the sunrise is just too beautiful." The sun lit up the entire sky bit by bit. Every step was difficult, but who could stop daybreak? My father had always told me that what the previous messenger of the beast deity brought to the beast world was faith, while what I wanted to bring to the beast world was hope. But I didn't know what hope was. Could it be that eating, drinking, and having fun with my partner every day was called hope? It can't be. Today, my confusion seems to have suddenly cleared up. I'm not the sun, and I don't have boundless radiance. However, my existence itself is hope. Gregory did not interrupt Gu Mengmeng. He liked to listen to her speak, anything was fine. To him, her voice was the most beautiful movement, the most beautiful melody. No matter how much she chattered, he listened to her every word very carefully. Even though the past had nothing to do with him, as long as it was related to her, he was interested. No matter what difficulties you encounter, no matter what pain you feel, even if you feel that you can't take it anymore and can't hold on any longer. At times like this, they would think, it's okay, we still have the messenger of the beast deity. No matter how difficult it is, we have to hold on, because she will definitely come to save us. The so-called sadness meant that even though it was difficult, it would eventually pass. Once we get through the most difficult times, everything will get better. Even if I didn't appear, they would still push the credit to me, saying that it was the messenger of the beast deity who gave them hope and allowed them to get through those hardships. Wasn't it a little shameless to say that? It seems like I'm overestimating myself. Gregory scooped some warm water from the pot for Gu Mengmeng to wash up. As he watched her rinse her mouth, he said, "Don't undervalue yourself." Chapter 1475. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before she burst out laughing. She could not be blamed for being smitten. It was really too weird, too funny, and too mushy for Gregory to say such romantic words with a serious tone, as if he was reciting the mind-cleansing incantation. "You said that in your world, there's a phrase called reciprocity." Gregory ignored Gu Mingming's silly smile. Anyway, no matter what she did, she would always be cute in his eyes. Gu Mengmeng nodded, as a reply to Gregory's question. Gregory lowered his eyelids and chuckled, "I feel that this phrase is very good, I like it very much." "Ha!" Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory in confusion. Gregory felt a little awkward, but still said, "I gave you a present that you like, shouldn't you return a present that makes me feel better?" Gu Mengmeng opened the beast skin and said, "You saw it too, I don't have anything on me now, so I can't take out a present. But I can remember it first, after we descend the mountain, I will also prepare a present for you, how about that?" Gregory shook his head and said, "I want it now. But I don't have anything now." Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders helplessly. "You do," Gregory said with certainty. The corner of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched, and she looked troubled. "Didn't we agree not to mate? Could this Gregory be? What do you want? Tell me first." Gu Mengmeng had already thought of herself as romantic once, and did not want to do it again, so she felt that it was better to clarify things first. Gregory's face was slightly red, and there was a suspicious shade of pink on his ears. "Since I already have a status, shouldn't you give me something special?" Seeing Gregory's bashful look, Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. She took 2 steps back and wrapped the beast skin even tighter around herself. She said defensively, "Gregory, we have been getting along well these few days, but I treat you as family, that matter, I can't do it." Gregory looked at Gu Mingming's guarded expression, and his gaze dimmed. He lowered his head and said in disappointment, "All right. Since you are not willing, then I will be like everyone else, and keep calling you Gu Meng Meng. Wait a minute. Gu Meng Meng blinked her eyes. In a daze, she felt that she was imagining things again, so she asked, "What do you want special?" Name. Grace spat out the two words in low spirits. Gu Meng Meng held her forehead and relaxed. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. That's right, how could she forget? The males in the beast world liked to give their females nicknames that were similar to nicknames. Leah called her Meng Meng, Elvis called her Xiao Meng, Snake called her Tu Meng, and even that pervert Cole called her Ah Gu. Having a nickname that belonged exclusively to a male was a great affirmation and satisfaction for a male. Oritin didn't have one because he didn't need it. He didn't need anything other than stewed meat. Gu Meng Meng rubbed herself against Gregory and proactively leaned on his shoulder. She smiled and said, "I thought you were going to say something. Wasn't it just a name?" "Yes, of course. What do you want to call me? Is it really possible?" Gregory's eyes lit up when he saw hope after falling to the bottom of the abyss. Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "Sure, go ahead. I can accept anything as long as it's not too disgusting." Gregory pursed his lips and said hesitantly, "Baby Mang." Chapter 1476. Gu Meng Meng means the most precious treasure. Gregory added, his tone filled with caution. Gu Meng Meng herself felt embarrassed. Not the most precious treasure, no. The anticipation in Gregory's eyes was so obvious that it made Gu Meng Meng feel like she would be committing treason if she said no. Nodding, she said, "All right, as long as you like it." Gregory smiled, smiling so blissfully. "Baby Mang." "Yeah. Baby Mang." Sigh. "Baby Mang." There were still 2 days before the wind stopped. Gregory told Gu Meng Meng that Elvis and Leah had already reached the foot of the mountain. They found a cave there that could shelter them from the wind and temporarily settled down with Wabi Eye. They could leave together after Gu Meng Meng retrieved the love of the sky 2 days later. Gu Meng Meng wanted to go down the mountain to see Elvis and Leah. She had not seen them for 4 days. This was the first time she had been separated from them for such a long time since they became partners. Gregory hesitated for a moment, but still shook his head. "You will be leaving after retrieving the love of the sky the day after tomorrow. Accompany me for these 2 days, all right?" Recalling what Gregory had said that day, Gu Meng Meng hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. Gregory would not leave with her. He was lonely most of the year and she could not even guarantee that she would accompany him during the dry season every year. And how many chances did he really have to go down the mountain to look for her? She could not even bear to be separated from Elvis and Leah for 4 days. Then what would Gregory do in the future? Forget it, she would just accompany him for these 2 days. Gregory hugged Gu Meng Meng and sat by the fire. He reached out a hand and asked, "Can I hold your hand for a while?" Gu Meng Meng placed her little hand in his. Turning back, she saw the happiness in Gregory's eyes almost flowing out. Gu Meng Meng laughed softly. Gregory's cold and aloof persona had completely collapsed. He was practically a young boy experiencing his first awakening of love. Even the smallest things could make him extremely happy. Your hand is so beautiful." Gu Meng Meng pulled Gregory's hand over in surprise and scrutinized it repeatedly. She said, "I always thought that Lee's hand was the prettiest, just like a scholar's, slender and well-proportioned. But yours is different. It's more masculine, with distinct joints and smooth contours. Not only is this thin callus not a flaw, it also makes one feel safe. If Lee's hand is the hand that holds books, then your hand is the hand that holds the sword, one hand holding the sword while the other holding the wine, roaming the pugilistic world in fresh clothes." Gregory had never felt that there was anything special about his hands, but when Gu Mengmeng singled it out and praised it, he started to take note of it. He had to take good care of these hands in the future. After all, it was what she liked. I don't want to hold the sword, I only want to hold you. Gregory held Gu Mengmeng's hand and kissed it. After kissing her, he realized that he had crossed the line. Then, he looked at Gu Mengmeng's expression anxiously. Seeing that she was not angry, he felt much more at ease. He smiled faintly and said, "Forever. Then after I get the love of the sky, follow me down the mountain. If you stay on the mountain, how can you hold me forever?" Gu Mengmeng made use of the pretext to make a fuss. She did not give up on persuading Gregory to leave with her. Instead, she wanted to make use of every possibility to kidnap Gregory. Chapter 1477. Gregory smiled but didn't reply. He just kissed the back of Gu Mengmeng's hand again. Even if it was just the back of her hand, it was a great comfort and happiness for Gregory to be allowed to kiss her openly. As long as I think of you in my heart, it will be for the rest of my life. With that, Gregory held Gu Mengmeng's hand with one hand and placed the other on her shoulder. I still have to make a trip to the stream. Firstly, it is to collect your food for today. Secondly, it is to introduce Lucas to Oritin. You know how protective Oritin is. I am afraid that Oritin will not give Lucas anything if he goes alone. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Then, she grinned. Then hurry back. I will wait for you at home. 2 keywords. One home, and the other wait. Gregory's chest tightened. He held Gu Mengmeng's hand and kissed it. Then, he reluctantly let go of her and spread his wings to fly off. Gu Mengmeng sat by the fire. She used the tree's sap to poke at the fire to make it burn brighter. The smile on her face gradually faded. Her left hand clutched at her heart. Gu Mengmeng felt that something was making her uneasy. By right, everything should be progressing in a good direction. 2 days later, the wind stopped. Gregory brought her to retrieve the love of the sky. Elvis and Leah had already safely reached the foot of the mountain with Wabi. There didn't seem to be any problems. Miranda was pregnant with a child with the bloodline of the Beast King. Although she didn't know how to open that door, she would try her best to protect that child. Cole could not ascend the Moda Mountains. He would definitely not cause any trouble when retrieving the love of the sky. Saint Nazir had Barit, Zacharias had Peter. Although Sauter had Cole who was like a ticking time bomb, Leah had already made the appropriate arrangements. Moreover, Hedda and Jialyu were not only protected by Sandy's family, but also by the entire Wolf clan and the 16 tribes. Even Cole would not be able to do anything to them in a short period of time. So what was she worried about? What had she missed out? Why did she feel so uneasy? Gu Mengmeng sat there in a daze. She was still in a daze when Gregory returned. Grace took the burnt resin from her hand and threw it into the fire. He hugged her gently and asked, "What's wrong?" Gu Mengmeng snapped out of her trance and quickly collected her thoughts. She smiled and said, "You're back." "Yes." Gregory tidied up the beast skin on Gu Mengmeng and looked at her worriedly. "What were you thinking about just now? You didn't even realize I was back." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and said, "Nothing, I just suddenly felt a little uneasy." "Say, do you think there will be any problems with us obtaining the love of the sky?" Gregory hugged her even tighter and placed his chin on the top of her head, telling her in a mellow voice, "Don't worry, I'm here." Gu Mengmeng nodded and chuckled. "By right, I am the Beast King and you are a 3rd-level beast. I should be stronger than you. But strangely, when you hug me like this, I feel very at ease. That little bit of panic is gone in an instant." Alright, in the future, whenever you feel uneasy, I will hug you like this. Gregory replied with a smile, his gaze gentle and determined. Tomorrow was the day the wind would stop. Gu Mengmeng leaned against the cave entrance and gazed into the distance. Chapter 1478. Gregory's voice resonated with his chest, shaking Gu Mengmeng's eardrums. Still worried? He's been absent-minded since yesterday. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Looking at the night sky, she said helplessly, yeah, the sky is already dark. An entire day has passed. I don't even know what I am worried about, but I just feel very uneasy. Gregory remained silent for a moment before asking hesitantly, in the past, what did Elvis and Leah do when you felt uneasy? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She shook her head and said, I am not a sentimental person. This is the first time I have felt uneasy for no reason. Gregory sighed softly and said, so, should I feel honored? The first time you felt uneasy for no reason, I was the one accompanying you. Gu Mengmeng was amused by Gregory's words. She said, why don't you tell me about your childhood? I can divert my attention and maybe everything will be fine. Childhood? Gregory countered. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, I have been here for the past few days. I feel that although the scenery on Moda Mountains is unique and majestic, but after looking at it for 10 years, the mountains are no longer mountains and the snow is no longer snow. How did you live your life in the past? I am a little curious. Gregory thought about it seriously, then shook his head and said with a bitter smile, I forgot. Gu Mengmeng could not help but ask curiously. Gregory nodded and replied, I have thought about it seriously. All my memories seem to have started from the first time I saw you in solder. Then how did I spend the first 10 long years of my life? Other than flying day and night. I don't remember anything else. Gregory tightened his grip on Gu Mengmeng's arm. He chuckled and said, this feeling is quite good. My life started from the moment I met you. So you are my everything. And now that I am hugging you, my life is complete. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, I am so important and you are not leaving with me. Gregory sighed and did not reply to Gu Mengmeng. He just pointed at the night sky and said, isn't the night sky beautiful from here? Gu Mengmeng knew that he was intentionally changing the topic and did not expose him. She just nodded and said, yeah, very beautiful. In my world, the air pollution is very serious, especially in S-City where I live. There are almost no stars at night. It's weird, I've been in the beast world for more than 4 years but I've never had a chance to look at the stars properly. Since we've reached the top today, why don't you accompany me to see if there are any constellations that I can recognize? Alright. I will accompany you. Gregory's gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's face the entire time. How could the starlight compare to her brilliance? Gu Mengmeng gestured for a long time but could not even find the Big Dipper. She sighed and shook her head, saying, when I was in school, I could just open my mouth and talk about horoscopes and whatnot. But in the end, I couldn't even recognize a single star. Gregory didn't mind. He just smiled and said, what's so important about knowing each other? It's fine as long as it looks good. Gu Mengmeng nodded in agreement. I like people like you who still help me out when I fail to act cool. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, I can't recognize all the stars but I do know a few stories about them. Let me tell you a story as compensation. Chapter 1479. After thinking for a while, Gu Mengmeng pointed casually and said, there was once a fairy who was curious about the things in the mortal world, so she secretly went down to the mortal world to travel. In the mortal world, she fell in love with a man, a male. The fairy's mother was furious when she found out about it. She probably felt that her family's diamond-studded 24K pure gold cabbage was stolen by a wild boar of unknown origin. So she brought the fairy back to the heavenly court and forbade the two of them from meeting. Gregory nodded and said, "If our daughter falls in love with a wild boar, I won't be happy either." Gu Meng Meng, wild boar was just a metaphor, all right. Moreover, where did our daughter come from? She already said she wouldn't mate with him. Seeing that Gu Mingming's expression was not good, Gregory hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. "Of course, if you agree, I have no objections. But, it's best not to be the first partner. Females from the bird's tribe should at least find their first partner within the tribe." The more Gregory spoke, the more he seemed to be serious. Gu Mengmeng was momentarily speechless and could not even be bothered to refute him. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng was not saying anything, Gregory thought that Gu Mengmeng had silently agreed to it. He was very happy, not because he had the right to speak on the issue of female partners, but because the fact that he could discuss their child with her was enough to make him happy. Even though he knew better than Gu Mengmeng that there would be no child between them. Then, what happened after that? Gregory smiled and continued to ask. He wanted to hear more from Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng said, "After the fairy's mother brought the fairy back to the heavenly court, the fairy cried non-stop and washed her face with tears every day. The cowherd on the ground also missed his wife very much, but he could not do anything about it. After that, a cow in their family became a demon and told the cowherd that he could go up to the heavens to meet the weaver maiden if he were to skin the cow and wear it. The cowherd did as he was told, then carried a pole and brought his children up to the heavens to meet the weaver maiden. After the Queen Mother of the West knew about it, she flew into a rage and used her hairpin to draw a line. Then, a galaxy appeared between the cowherd and the weaver maiden. It's the galaxy formed by the stars in the sky. It was boundless and could not be crossed. After that, a group of magpies could not stand it any longer. Wasn't this mother-in-law a little too hard to please? Although the male prostitute was not very rich, he at least had a house, land, and a cow. Besides, they had already given birth to a child. What was the point of forcibly separating them? Therefore, they spontaneously built the Magpie Bridge. Every year on the 7th day of the 7th month, they helped the cowherd and the weaver maid cross the Milky Way to meet for one day. After Gu Mengmeng finished, she chuckled and said, "Actually, I feel that this story is quite tragic, but I don't know why everyone says it's romantic." Then, on Chinese Valentine's Day every year, everyone would use this as a reason to celebrate. Couples all over the world would show off their love and show off their affection. I still can't understand why a couple can only see each other once a year. What's there to celebrate? Gregory smiled and said, "All right, that's the end of the story. Go to sleep. We still have to get Love of the Sky tomorrow." Gu Mengmeng thought about it and nodded. "I hope everything goes smoothly." You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.